this ground reality?
Thank you, Rahul, and a very good morning to all participants here, members from uh, the government and from the industry. So what Rahul has said, I mean, I think that rings a bell because that is with every scheme, no matter how well conceived it is or what its objectives are, which are in case of RDSS very well defined. But unless we have a ground level plan, unless we have a clear monitoring mechanism, and water, I mean, because power at the end of the day, it's a concurrent subject. The number of stakeholders are much more than, say, compared to defense, which will be only in the domain of government of India, or say, I mean, health or education, which largely stay in the domain of the state government, barring a few institutions of national importance. But when it comes to power, it is a very interactive scenario. I mean, every stakeholder has to pull his or her own weight. And what you said about GIS updating and consumer databasing, I think we still would have liked to have more of it. I mean, before we went into the scheme, but then we cannot forever wait. I mean, for the ideal situations to emerge, so we had to start the scheme somehow. So maybe with more effort, maybe 1 year down the line, we could have worked only on GIS updation and consumer database updating. It would have been a much better scheme in that sense. But then also we would have lost one important year for AT&C loss reduction. So the scheme itself, I mean, it will do macro level prescriptions like AT&C reduction targets. Every state will get an individual trajectory. Every utility will have a trajectory. So there'll be something to look forward to. I mean, some kind of macro targeting. And at the end of the day, it is the people on the ground, the junior engineers, the assistant engineers who will be implementing these schemes will have to see if they can do I mean, what we like to have is like when we have a national level trajectory. So we'll be the Ministry of Power and the nodal agencies will be doing a state by state trajectory, utility by utility trajectory. Then on it is upon the utility to take it forward. And we like to have feeder level trajectories. If not with us, at least the DISCOM should have that feeder level trajectory. So that is the only way. I mean, energy accounting is something which cannot be done away with. I mean, the entire objective, the AMI SP scheme, is that there should be a clear flow because in this sector, the flow of energy is also the flow of money. It's also the flow of revenue. So the two are indistinguishable. So even if a state is giving certain power which is at a lower cost, which is subsidized, which is free, even that has to be accounted for because when we go to loss calculation, there are a lot of gaps which are filled up by substituting that for free power or power that has not been. So unless we actually account for this kind of power, even power that is not being charged for or not being charged for at the correct cost, where the state is filling the gap. And the overall philosophy is that the government of India will have no problem with people subsidizing power as long as the subsidies flow in on time. I mean, not just the actual availability of subsidies, but also the timeliness of this money because cash flow is always a problem in the sector. So I'll come back to because the entire our session was about smart meters. So the overall target, 250 million consumers. I mean, that is what we are looking at, and 100 million in the first 1.5 2 years. So in the initial, we have a small problem right now about semiconductors. All of the industries available. But what we see is in the next 3 to 4 months, the outlook we are being translated that it might slightly get better. Uh, then on, I mean, as a nodal agency, there are certain other initiatives we have been taking that we like to tell everyone. One is the training and capacity building. So we've got industry participants also, and we have involved Power Sector Skill Council, NPTI, various other government agencies. We also like to have, if any uh, private players will also like to pull in their resources. We like to have, I mean, when people go to install meters, to configure meters, they should be having the right people skills. They should be having the right kind of aptitude, knowledge, behavioral orientation, so that there is the consumer resistance that comes from behavioral issues are eliminated at best. The other part is technology, of course. If the technology works fine, if the readings are fine, if you are able to demonstrate that, then again, another element of consumer resistance goes away. So for a program of this kind of scale, magnitude, and this ambition, I think not having consumer resistance is very important because meters can be made available, skills can be made available, but if consumer resistance builds up, then it will be very difficult. I mean, for any kind of mass rollout, it's always important that you have to have the consumer on your side. Then we are also working about testing, how to expedite testing and how to ensure that there are no roadblocks in that sense. I mean, our procedures at times become roadblocks. So the ministry has been working with industry also. We have been working with the utilities also. So we have been coordinating with utilities right now to come up with their action plans, their DPRs, and we have been getting it from some of the early utilities. So by the next 3 to 4 months, I think the broad template will be set as to how the scheme will play out in various states. Metering, of course, will remain at the heart of the scheme. But besides metering, we are also looking at a lot of automation. The SCADA and RTDAS SBD has been shared, the draft version. By this month end, we'll also be bringing in the final SBDs for model SBDs for SCADA and RTDAS. So with SCADA and RTDAS, we're hoping to go to 4,000 towns. Every town which is identified as an urban town in the country, urban agglomeration, or even an urban center, even towns with population of 4,000, 5,000, we just are at the periphery of, which are like many of them have the social makeup of a grown-up village in that sense. So what we hope to see is that when you have technology infusion there, so there'll be an interest among the DISCOM staff also that to use technology to monitor things. We'll want more and more data to be generated, to be analyzed without human intervention. Not that, I mean, people would not do it well, but of course, I mean, the kind of efficiency, the turnaround time we see in a machine cannot be replicated on a daily basis. So that is the entire spirit of the scheme, that we have to create greater automation. We have to wean away the inefficiencies which come both from the social side as well as the technological side. So the technology part is easier, but still, I mean, it has to fall in place with the other things. So that's it from me, Rahul. If there are any questions or anything.
Thank you. We'll definitely come back a lot
to the India Smart Grid Forum for organizing this and for talking